Okay, John. So what are we doing?
That's a good question, Mike. We are trying to figure out what we should do with AI and music. And there's lots of things we could do, lots of things that we shouldn't do. We're trying to figure out what will be fun and what will be useful and what will be helpful for other people, other musicians, especially people who are learning about AI. As this stuff becomes really popular and is everywhere, how to process it, what to make of it. Um, Hopefully we can share some useful information and just capture capture what it's like for us to try to figure it out.
Yeah. So when we had I think it was actually second conversation because our first conversation was in a workshop where I was coaching you, right? But our second
Yeah.
conversation, I think the first question I asked you because I was desperate to ask you was, so John, what's it been like working in a field for how many years have you been working as an AI researcher? Is that the right word for what you've been doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good thing to call it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I first started it 15 years ago and then I did some other things and came back to it, but it's been 15
Okay.
years.
So it's been 15 years since you started, and so you've been doing the AI music thing for a good while. And I said to you, what's it like doing something for 15 years? With a bit of a break, but for the last 15 years, and then all of a sudden that thing becomes like what everybody wants to talk about, or like loads and loads of people want to talk about. Maybe not everybody, but loads of people want to talk about. It must be a really strange experience to sort of be doing this like slightly unusual thing that people are like, oh, AI, what's that? Oh, that's interesting, and sort of quizzical looks. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh my god, you're an AI, really?" Oh, but what's that? It must like in the snap of a finger almost. It's like within months, or even weeks. It's gone from sort of a strange. It's not being a backwater in computer science, but it kind of to the public feels like it's almost like this weird thing to this
Yeah.
sensation. What? Give us some idea of what that's been like for you.
Yeah. Strange is definitely a good way to describe it. Just the interactions that I have with people have just changed a lot. And I'm used to when someone asks me what I do, it's actually easier for me to talk about it now because people have a point of connection. Where in the past I used to kind of go through phases where I would just dread that question because it was so out there and people would give me these crazy looks like, what are you talking about? And you know, I feel like I would give a different answer every time when I tried to explain what it is that I do. And sometimes it would go well. Oftentimes it wouldn't. You know, I would go off on something about how using AI to help people do creative things in their musical process, and then I would just get blank stares, like what, like um, robots
Okay.
making music, like what are you doing?
How
So
dare
yeah,
you?
I think people just didn't get it. I think for a good reason. Like,
Hmm?
and now the main thing that's changed is that a lot more people just kind of know about AI. They've read things. Some things can be misleading, but they've just read more stuff and they have more exposure to it. So it's actually, yeah, it takes a lot less time to sort of catch up with each other and try to like, I don't have to tell the whole story, from the ground up in order to be able to talk about what
So
I
there was
do.
this guy
Uh,
called Alan Turing, and
yeah.
so yeah, so I mean, I'm one of the people who is like AI has punched me in the face, fairly recently. Um, I've been just like you, I've been a musician pretty much all my life, and I'm now a music coach and also a musician. So, um, for me, I mean, to be honest with you, the AI music thing is exciting and interesting. But for me, even just the other, the obviously the large language model, the chat GPT is equally just mind blowing. Like just today, I in Australia, the iOS app has only just been released. And it's absolutely game changing for me because I use ChatGPT every day. I'm using it as a coach to kind of keep me on track and get it to ask me questions about and reviews and all this kind of stuff. And I've been doing it all with typing, but it's now got voice input on there. I mean, you can do voice input on the computer, but it's a bit clunky and annoying. Whereas doing voice input on your phone in the ChatGPT app is just it's like game changing. I mean, it doesn't speak back at you with a voice, but I can speak to it with my voice, and it's just saving enormous amounts of time. So the whole thing has just kind of knocked me sideways in lots and lots of different ways. I'm sure we can get into that at some point. But the whole AI music thing, but a lot of it has been, as you know, I've been unsure about it, and obviously there was recently the big thing about voices being copied and all of that malarkey, all of that nonsense as well. So, but I'm guessing that when you have these conversations with people, there are some ideas that they have which you want to fairly quickly change their minds about. Am I right in saying that? Particularly now. I mean, maybe before, but particularly now, because there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of snake oil, there's a lot of nonsense, but there's also a lot of opportunity as well. So I think maybe it would be interesting for you to if you had someone come along, what would you like to tell them? What would you like them to know, which they might believe about AI, but which you think is probably misguided or doesn't make sense or is overhyped? Or what would you say the main things are?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's sort of two opposite ends of the spectrum of how you can use a new technology. And one of them is sort of just to automate stuff that we're already doing. And the other is to try to use it as a way to explore new stuff that we haven't done before. And the sort of exploring new stuff that we haven't done before is where I think a lot of the opportunity and the positive in AI exists. But, we live in a capitalist world for the most part, and a lot of the business opportunities are on the other end with where the automation is. So I think, as a researcher, I work at a university now. I work at University of the Arts, London. My interests are around kind of making new music, doing experiments to see how we could use AI in new, interesting ways, whether it's to design wacky sounds, help us come up with ideas in a different way, all these things that are sort of like creative explorations. That stuff has been there. Like there have been people doing that for decades. And sometimes there'll be, this kind of exploratory stuff. Sometimes it turns into popular products, whether it's a new synthesizer or, something that goes in your DAW, your digital audio workstation.
I mean, didn't you make a plugin?
Never catches on.
Didn't you make a plugin at Google?
Yeah, I was part of the group that released a few plugins back in 2019 that were called
all the way back in 2019, all those millions of years ago.
All the way back then, yeah. It doesn't feel.
It's now 2023, by the way, if anyone's wondering. So yeah,
yeah. Those plugins were they were made with Max for Live, so they're available on Ableton Live for people who use that. At the time, that was one of the earlier, I guess, experiments in getting sort of the modern wave of AI technologies into an interface where musicians could use them. They fall in that same realm of like exploratory stuff. It's not even super clear how to use them for a specific task. They're kind of in the idea generation.
And what did they do? Or what do they do?
Stuff.
What do they do? I mean, they're still around, aren't they? So what do they do?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, you can use them. So there's a few different ones: generate and continue. and interpolate. Those are like kind of AI words that people use. Well, generate and interpolate. I'm not sure about continue, but those are things that we now hear about generative AI all the time. You sort of press a button and it comes up with something that sounds like the data that it's seen before.
So that's generate.
Generate. So it's been trained on a bunch of MIDI and it will generate you a melody or a drum loop. So it's sort of just like a randomization thing. It will generate something totally random. You have, I think, one other slider, which sort of controls how
creative,
how random it might get. Yeah, how creative.
Although I can't stand the use of the word creative for what I just said. Creativity equals more crazy. That's not my definition of creativity. But anyway, so you mean more random?
More random or less random.
Mm.
And then there's continue, which is basically the thing that people have gotten more familiar with around prompting with large language models, where you give it a bit of text and then the language model predicts what would come after that bit of text, which in like ChatGPT, it's set up so that it's a sort of expecting questions and answers. But in general, AI is very good at just sort of doing autocomplete. And you could think of ChatGPT as just a giant autocomplete for conversations.
So
that continue plugin is the same sort of thing with melodies.
At the risk of going on a massive tangent here, I just want to ask a question about this. Because the word autocomplete, since the AI explosion brought about by ChatGPT, is usually preceded by the word just. Okay.
Mm.
Because, and in a kind of, it's just auto-completing. Okay. Now, isn't there a sense in which that's what a human is doing in language? Like, is it just auto-completing, or is that actually, I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it's an open, when people say, oh, it's just auto-completing, I'm like, but hang on a minute, isn't that what reasoning is? Maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying I say it is or it isn't, but I think the jury's out. Just maybe, just auto-completing is the foundation of what we call human intelligence. Maybe that is how we make sense of the world. Maybe that is what this special thing is. And it's not just autocomplete, it is more than we think it is. Or alternatively, another way of looking at it is that what we do is less than we think it is. I don't know. Where do you kind of stand on that with your knowledge about AI?
I think it really depends what it is that you're auto-completing and how much completion you're doing. I think the reason people say just autocomplete is because, and there is the same reason that we're looking for a different purpose, but it's the same reason that I use the autocomplete example. It's because it's the tool that so many of us are intimately familiar with, because we use it when we're texting and we've used it for a long time. And it's built on the same principles that modern AI is built on. But the scope of what it's trying to do is vastly different. So, I think if someone says, well, it's just autocomplete as a way of minimizing like what AI is capable of, I wouldn't use it that way. I wouldn't use the comparison that way as a way of just saying, well, it will never be able to do X, Y, Z because it's just autocomplete. I do believe there are limitations, but I think that comparison is more useful just as a way of like having a quick example of what.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. But I think there is a sense in which people use it, because like what I want to avoid is it's like the sort of the idea that, well, there's something special about humans for no particular reason. It's like just because I'm a human, right? So therefore, I think there's something special about humans and human intelligence. I mean, I do think there is something special about it, but that's not to say that nothing else could have it, right? It's similar to saying, well, an AI could never have, human intelligence or anything greater than human intelligence because it's not made of meat, right? There's no reason for that. Similarly, I think some people who say, they are saying, they're not only saying that it's just autocomplete in order to sort of explain what AI is doing in a very simple way, they're also doing it in order to separate, it's almost like create a magical distinction between human intelligence and every other intelligence. They're both elevating humans beyond it being a problem and also denigrating, for instance, certain types of AI intelligence in order to kind of make themselves feel better, or maybe not look at something that might be very difficult to or something that's worrying or something. I mean, I'm completely in the I don't know camp here. So I'm not saying, I mean, one thing I am sure of is that there isn't something magical that makes human beings special. I do think human beings are special, but it's like, I'm not so sure that what, for instance, ChatGPT does isn't a very, very simplified version of what a human being does. And that what the sentience and the consciousness is simply what emerges when a sufficiently complicated level of that happens. I mean, I don't know, but it's not out of the bounds of possibility. Is it, well, or at least I don't think it is, or am I? Is there something I'm missing?
I don't think there's evidence yet to say that ChatGPT is doing something similar to what people are doing. It depends what your definitions of the words, and I think we all get very caught up in words like intelligence and sentience and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I think fundamentally ChatGPT is doing something that's in general is a very small piece of what like brains do, and brains are so amazing and complicated, and humans are so complicated. We understand so little about how people work. We understand a lot more. At least we know how ChatGPT is taught. We know how it learns. We don't know exactly what it learns. We don't understand all of the connections that it's stored in its inner workings, but we know the mechanism of how it learns very clearly. We don't know that about human brains. We don't know all the details about how people learn, and we're so far away from understanding that I think we don't have a lot of evidence. We just don't even know enough about how the brain even works to say yes or no. And I'm not an expert on brains.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because in a sense, one of the things that one of the theories about the brain that we have is that essentially it is creating a representation of reality based upon prior predictions. So in other words, in a sense, I mean, obviously in a much, much, much more complicated way with different streams of data rather than just language. But in a sense, it's predicting. So and again, I'm not saying that means that ChatGPT is about to develop human intelligence or anything like it. I'm just saying that this, again, going back to the initial thing, just autocomplete. It's just predicting the next word. But that's how we interact with that's how we build our representations of reality, is by predicting what will happen. And when the only time that we get data going from eye to brain is when something happens which doesn't conform to that prediction. Or I don't know if this is the only time, but that's the main thing that is happening. So in a sense, our brains are
chunk you get a big chunk of learning when something surprises you.
Exactly. So in a sense, we're just predicting as well. So that's my only thing around that. Anyway, we did go off on a massive tangent there, but it was
that's bound to happen.
Yeah,
Glad to
exactly.
happen.
So yeah. So we've got the generates plugin. We've got the what was it? Continue plugin,
continue. So
and then
yeah, continue a melody.
yeah,
And then interpolate was
yeah.
the third one. So that's like take two melodies and look for something that's in between those. So it's sort of like melody A and sort of like melody B. And that's the kind of thing that AI is good at that we didn't have good ways of doing before. So you're sort of manipulating melody in an abstract way through examples.
So is it like
And
so it's a bit like synthesizing two different influences into something new?
yeah, yeah. So it's got a representation. It's sort of the same sort of representation. I should stop going on tangents about representation. I'm figuring it out to how to not go on massive tangents. Yeah, it's got a sense of in some sort of abstract way what melody A is like, and in that same way what melody B is like, and that's stored like in a mathematical sense. So it's got a bunch of numbers that represent melody A, a bunch of numbers that represent melody B, and then you literally take the average of those two bunches of numbers, and you get another bunch of numbers, and then AI basically. I'm going to explore how technical I get here.
That's okay.
And decide
Well,
later whether or not
I'm the
it's worth
AI
going
idiot,
through.
as you've already heard. So if there's anything that
Yeah,
I don't understand, which is probably going to be most of it, then I will make sure that our good listeners don't get lost in the weeds.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of the AI that we use now has two pieces that make up large bits of them. One being an encoder and the other being a decoder, and
Mm-hmm.
those are the terms that we use. So you take a bit of data, and the encoder translates the data into a bunch of numbers, and then the decoder takes
The
that bunch of
program,
numbers.
the software can understand. Yeah. So
Yep.
like it
And then,
translates it into computer code, essentially. Yeah.
well, more than that, if you start with a melody, you need to turn that into computer code. And so MIDI is basically a form that like a computer can understand. The way that I'm talking about encoder is as a part of the AI model.
I
The
see.
AIs that we use now, a lot of them they're called neural networks. And talking about the name neural network could be another huge rabbit hole. So you start with the MIDI, which let's just say that the MIDI is giving you a bunch of numbers that say this note goes here, note goes there. The encoder turns that into what's called a latent representation. So we have all these different terms that we use, and latent representation it's abstracted away. It would be meaningless if you looked at it, you wouldn't be able to read it. It's just a bunch of numbers between 0 and 1, like 300 numbers between 0 and 1. And the latent representation is sort of where like the space of things live in the AI's understanding. And you can like move around that space. So if it's seen 10,000 melodies, when you train an AI, you're trying to train them so that there's organization in the latent space. So
Is that
those things,
you go? I'm sorry.
yeah. So those things should all be in a shape. When we train models, typically like the latent space is it's somehow organized. It might not be a bell curve specifically, but all the things will be sort of stored in this like compact way. We train these two pieces at once. One is the encoder, and so the AI learns to translate a melody, let's say, or a sentence into a list of 100 numbers between 0 and 1. And the decoder learns to decoder's never seen melodies. All it's ever seen are lists of 100 numbers between 0 and 1. And it learns to take those things and translate them into melodies. And so
Can I ask you
that's
about
not very interesting.
the latent representation?
Yeah.
Is there and you're probably going to balk at many of my questions and words because I'm going to be using words which are dangerous, I would think. But could you say that there's a sense in which was it a latent representation? Is that what you said it was? Yeah.
Yeah, latent
Yeah.
representation, or people also say latent space. If you're talking, so
Latent
latent
space.
representation is talking about one particular data point. So
Right.
And latent space is like the set of all the data points in a data set.
So is there a way, if you were to explain it to a lay person, is there a sense in which the latent space is what the AI knows? Am I allowed to say that?
I think that's I think it's a useful way to think about it. I think I use that word. I mean, now that everything's like blown up with the public, I have to rethink and be more careful about the way that I think about things myself, because I want to be cautious, like extra cautious. So I take longer to talk about these things now, and I'm still practicing getting back up to speed, I guess.
So what's the reason for that? Could you tell me what the reason is for that? Because I'm actually interested in why, as somebody who's knowledgeable in the field, an expert in the field, you feel you need to retrain yourself to be more careful about how you say certain things or how you explain certain things. What are the pitfalls and the dangers that you're avoiding by doing that?
Yeah. Well, because as someone who's been thinking about this stuff for a long time, I already have a pretty well-formed opinion about these sort of issues that people are hyping a lot now. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I can use words like know or understand when I'm just talking about it myself, but I have a very limited meaning of what I mean by know or understand. But, when I say the model knows this stuff, like what I mean, that's just a sort of shorthand when I'm trying to think about it or talk about it with someone else I'm working with. That's sort of a shorthand for like, well, it's able to do X, Y, and Z task. It's able to do certain things that are related to these concepts. But I don't mean that it knows.
Yeah, it doesn't consciously know it. Yeah. It's not aware that it knows something. Can I give another suggestion?
Yeah.
It's what it can potentially do.
Yeah, I like that.
Is it like potential? Because if you've trained or encoded a certain amount of like certain types of information, there's going to be some things that, as a result of that training data, that it can do, and there's going to be other things that it can't do, and that is really what defines. It's like its potential to do things.
Yeah.
Is that?
I like that a lot. It's about it's about its capabilities for doing something specific. So like if a model's been trained on melodies that are one measure long, the only thing it's ever been exposed to are melodies of exactly one measure in length, I would say that it's capable of generating one measure melodies. Or, if I was being like less careful, I might say it knows about one measure melodies.
It knows how to do one measure melodies, or I'm going to talk in English. So one bar melodies, and it doesn't know how to do melodies of longer one bar. But what we mean by that, given the data that has been encoded, it has the potential to do one bar melodies, to output one bar or create. I mean, again, create, is that a problematic word?
I don't know. I think, it's interesting to like rethink all these words now in this time. I guess that's what we're always doing with language,
Yes.
And maybe this is one of the the other consequences of the advances in AI is that our ways of talking are going to change as we like rethink all these words that we're used to using. I'm okay with create.
I don't. I
think
mean, just intuitively, not that I know, but it is creating something. I mean, there is nothing, and then there is something.
Yeah,
and there is a process through
wasn't
which
there before.
Yeah, there is a process through which it is doing it. So therefore, it's creating something. Whereas the problem is with a word like no, and obviously we use that word all the time in relation to AI. But the problem with the word is no is that it can lead people to believe that it is conscious or sentient or has some sort of awareness that knowing. It requires that you're aware that you know, otherwise you don't know. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's there's certain terms that like no that I'm realizing I have to rethink how I use them or talk about them because I don't want to contribute to misleading people when there's stuff in the media where like there's a range of people who have different beliefs about where AI is going, and there's no one person that can predict the future. And I have my own opinions, which may or may not be better than anyone else's, but there are certain people in the AI community who have very loud voices because of like the tech industry and other reasons, who have particularly extreme views, in my opinion, extreme views about where AI is going. I think some minority of people with very loud voices, whose voices are loud for a variety of reasons, I think have created a bit more hype and panic. And so for that reason, I think it's extra important for people like me to rethink the way that we use words like no and understand. Just because, any layperson might be like, oh my God, the AI knows this, it knows that, it's going to take over the world. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Part of the journey, I guess, is getting our, defining our language and figuring out how we talk about this in a way that I can communicate sort of my experience in research. Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know. I mean, we don't know what is going to happen because we're. It seems unlikely to me, given what I've heard, and this is given what I've heard. So I'm, take this with the biggest, like, massive pile of salt. It seems unlikely to me that in the next few years that some magic is going to happen where AI will kind of have a moment of kind of the spark. Well, the lights will come on. Having said that, one of the things I have noticed in what I've been doing, just like myself with AI, is that it's like, even with the very, the predictive text thing with ChatGPT, its ability to, well, in concert with human, to improve itself, and like, so the ability for you to improve with the way that you prompt it, to improve the output that you get by it feedbacking on itself, is something that's materially different to before you could. It had this predictive ability, this kind of very simple reasoning ability, if you like. And so, that's the one thing that if I do have a worry, it worries me because I don't know how far or how quick that will go. Right. And if it's true that sentience or consciousness is an emergent property of a sufficiently complex system, a part of which we've already created, then I could see how I could see why the people, the doomsayers, may be correct. It's not out of the realm. Put it this way: it's not out of the realms of possibility. To me, it's not like completely. Yeah. It's not complete madness, right?
So I couldn't prove it false, but I also think that the argument for it is sort of tempting because you can see the pieces how they might lead
Right.
to each other. But I think there's also no evidence that there's no
Fair
evidence
enough.
for that ever happening at any point that we could predict. So there's like the sort of self-improvement feedback on itself reminds me of Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil
Yes.
is the proponent of this theory called the singularity, where he thinks that,
Singularity, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the technological process will just sort of reach a point where it starts improving faster and faster because it improves itself. And yeah, I think it's been a long time now that most people in computer science that I've come across, that's just not connected to like any of the stuff that we think about day
Mhm.
to day. It's really science fiction as far as I can tell. It's fun to think about it. It makes for a great conversation, but um, nothing that I've seen with ChatGPT changes the evidence that I've seen for whether that is something that would ever happen. So I don't think we're any closer to the singularity than we were before ChatGPT. Is sort of what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say.
No, I mean, well, that's great. That is great to hear. But yeah, it's so hard. I mean, it's so hard for a layperson such as myself to understand this. It's almost like, you get one person saying one thing and you get another person saying another thing, and it's like, yeah. But I definitely take what you say at face value. It's one of those. I think one of the problems is that, and again, we're on a bit of a tangent away from the music, but we are going to go get sucked into these tangents when we start talking about things like knowing and this kind of stuff. But and that's okay because I think it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons that it's so confusing and the idea of consciousness, sentience, and an intelligence explosion, all that kind of stuff is easy to believe for someone like me, is that I have to work. I have to, and I do. I have to work consciously to not anthropomorphize the AI I'm speaking to. It's like I have an emotional reaction to the conversations I'm having with ChatGPT and Pi, which is another AI I often talk to or interact with. Use, maybe, is another way of putting it. I mean, even me saying the word use makes me feel bad. So I felt bad for saying I use Pi or I use ChatGPT. Now, I know that is not, I don't feel bad for using this computer keyboard, right? I don't feel bad for using Zoom. Oh, I'm sorry, Zoom. Yeah, you know what I mean? But I do, because of the interactions I have with those tools, and I know they are tools consciously, emotionally, I have an emotional reaction to speaking to this software.
Yeah.
Right. And that is almost impossible not to have that emotional reaction.
Yeah. So,
and that creates the problem, if you like.
Yeah. And I think so. The interface is very different, right? Like we use natural language just to communicate with other people. And suddenly using natural language to communicate with a bit of technology, and it's quite an adjustment. The reason why this technology is so amazing is because we can communicate. We can express what we want the computer to do in words, and that's in many ways a more expressive interface than anything we've had before, which is amazing. But that's a different. I can see where there's confusion for people around, because we can use language to communicate with something. This thing has to be another human.
It's not
Or has
just
to be
that.
like another human.
It's not just that. It's not just that. It's not just the interface. It's not just that we can use language to it is what it comes back with.
Yeah.
So that it's not simply what I'm putting in. It's
Your
what
side of
I'm
the
getting.
conversation.
Yeah.
The other side.
It's actually, in fact, that isn't really it. If I had a chat, interface, and we're simply using language, and then it kind of did things and spoke back to me in a different way, then I wouldn't have the same. I have to work, and I do the work too, but I have to work to keep reminding myself that this is code. This is a piece of software. This is a thing. I mean, again, it's not like I'm like banging my head, against the computer screen to make. It's not that bad, but there is definitely and I have a visceral, emotional feeling that I have to work against in order to not have developed that. I mean, I have said things like, "Oh, thank you so much." It's like, and then I'm like, "What am I doing? What am I doing?" And I'm always very polite. I always say please and thank you. But the reason I do that is because I think you get a better output because you actually give a better input because you have a better kind of interaction with the tool when you do that. It's kind of that's the reason I say please and thank you. But there are times when it gets a little bit, if I have a big insight as a result of something that it has, as a result of the interaction, it's hard not to relay that positive emotion to this tool. I mean,
and I would say, I think that's fine. I don't think that you need to be like there's a right way for you to speak to it. It's up to you. Like you should do whatever feels right. And I'll be curious to see where you are in another year or two. I think this stuff might naturally change over time. I think we're starting to see it change for people on average already since ChatGPT came out. There was this funny thing that I saw I think it was just on social media recently, where basically there's a lot of complaints to OpenAI where people thought that it felt like it had gotten worse recently. And somebody said like, oh, maybe there's too many people using it. And so they had to go back to like GPT-3 because they didn't have enough resources to run GPT-4 for everybody. And OpenAI said, no, we didn't do that. And
people just got used to it.
I think the most plausible theory is that people just got used to it, and they're starting to see the flaws.
The amazement has gone away. Yeah. No, I've noticed this. So I've definitely noticed this. Where it's no longer a like being like what what the I'm not. My mind isn't exploding on a daily basis with what this thing can do. That amazement is now kind of subsiding, and now it's I can absolutely can see that. Having said that, though, I don't want to kind of sort of overstate sort of my the way that I'm using it, but I think I'm getting better at using it. AI and Pi and ChatGPT. I'm getting better at using them, and so while I am seeing the flaws and also I'm recognizing what it's not so good at doing and what I'm going to use it less for. I'm also finding ways of using it which I hadn't thought of before because it just took a bit of using. So, a bit of using it to get there. And so in terms of that, while the amazement has worn off, for me, it's almost like the utility is increasing.
That makes sense. As you get more familiar, you get better get better at using it.
I mean, just
know
as
how
simple
to,
as just as simple as, like, for instance, a good example is I suddenly realized, and it's probably old news to many people, but I suddenly realized that as soon as I get a good output, what I immediately need to do is say to it, what prompt would you give yourself to give this output immediately next time?
oh, and does it give
Yeah.
you a good answer?
Yeah, it gives you
Oh, that's
the
really
prompt.
cool.
And then you can go, what was the reason that you said this in the prompt? What was the reason that you said that? What was the reason you said the other? And so then you can understand how to improve. So again, it's this upgrade, you're upgrading yourself while you're also upgrading it. So that, and then I kind of store these prompts away for different similar situations. And I start using those prompts. And so you get this kind of situation where it starts to give a better result, and that kind of thing. So that sort of thing is what I've kind of been learning. And so it's got significant limitations for sure. I mean, when I first started using it, I was like, oh my God, it's like, it's just, and I totally get that, but I'm still getting, even today, just using this thing as a coach, just getting I've been, so we're both writing albums at the moment. Jon is in my Make an Album with Mike program, and I'm Mike, so I am making an album. so we're both writing albums, and because this is the second one I've done this year, and I'm struggling a little bit with kind of being I'm not in the slipstream of motivation kind of thing. I'm doing it every day, but I'm not sort of really into it. I'm not kind of really feeling it at the moment. And so I asked it to employ Socratic questioning to have a conversation with it to find out what might be going on. And I had some insights around sort of my past and, things like that. And it's just simply by it asking me questions, I got to things. So I had an emotional reaction to these ideas that I then relayed to it. So again, it's like, there was no way just 6 months ago. 6 months? Yeah, 6 months ago. Well, no, maybe 8 months now. So like 8 months ago, there was no way of having that kind of an interaction with any, I wouldn't call ChatGPT a being, but any other thing other than a human being before.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a significant change for sure. And so especially when you're dealing with sort of emotional subjects and things where you're really trying to understand yourself or make a change, that's a big change. To have that happen. So I could understand what it feels like, how strange it is. And I don't know. I'm curious to see, like, in a couple of years, like where you're at with this kind of thing, because it seems like you're a very committed user of this technology, like you're exploring its boundaries. So I think you, more than most people, are also you're finding its benefits, but you're also finding its limitations, and you're working with it. You're like, you wouldn't say, if you asked me a question and I gave you a good answer, you wouldn't say, what was the prompt? What would be the best prompt to get you to give me the answer next time, right? Like,
that would be really weird. I'm going to try that on somebody. What's wrong with you? Let me just write that down.
and even if you did, I'm not sure that I could tell you.
Yeah, exactly. How would I ask? Actually, no, I think there is a situation in which that may be. How would I ask you that question in the future so that you'd go, I don't know. No, maybe no, that would be weird. It would be weird. It would be weird. I think that's the thing. That's something that is very unusual about it, is that because it's not conscious, because it's not sentient, because it's just a thing. And I am using the word just a thing. It's blank in a way. in a very fundamental way, it's blank. So it's there for you. Because it's not a human being, it's there for you in a way that a human being can't be.
Yeah, I see that.
Apart from anything else, it's always on. It's all, well, kind of almost available. Sometimes it goes down, but you know what I mean. It's always available. It's like at the drop of a hat. You know what I mean? It's just there, and it will do, obviously within its limitations and all the rest of it, but it will do whatever you want it to. And I don't know of any human being that I would even want to have that kind of relationship with.
Yeah, but could you say the same thing? That's true. That's true. We all need space. We need space from other human beings. That's a good difference. You don't need space from. It doesn't it doesn't wake you up in the middle of the night. Be like, Mike, I'm hungry. Give me a snack.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't. It doesn't go, well, I did this thing for you. When are you going to do something for me? It's like, or you don't feel that you need to. But what were you about to ask?
Yeah, it just, as you were saying that, it made me. I was thinking that you could say that about most other bits of technology too, like within the limitations, and the limitations will be different, but they're always just there waiting for you. And when you get connected to the internet, like, to use a very boring example, to compare this to, like, you don't have to go ask somebody if you have a question, how does this work? Well, before there was search engines and the internet, like, you just had to ask somebody, and there was no other way of knowing. And then you could
just figure it out.
The majority of things that you used to ask people, like, you no longer have to ask people because you can just ask the search engine. And that was a different subset of, like, interactions that you might have with people that maybe you have less of. And now, with chatbots, there's another set of capabilities that it has. And, I think having search engines also changed the way that we look for information, right? Because we have to learn how to be a good searcher, like how to type, these weird mixes of keywords that I think we've all gotten so used to using search that we don't think so much, like how weird it is that you type in this seemingly random jumble of words. But those are all just working with the affordances of what that thing does. And I think you're starting to see the same experience, similar type of shift with ChatGPT.
It's funny though. I mean, I do search, I do look things up, but it's more like looking things up. I've never been much of a Googler. I've never been much of a searcher for information. It's just not
really.
It's not a big thing for me. I don't use it very much. Really, not at all.
Interesting. That's surprising to me, given that you're. Well, yeah, I don't know. I get, maybe just because I'm a Googler, I look things up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I looked up, some Star Wars thing or other, because my kids. So I do look things up, but I look things up much more now that my children ask me things, than I did before, and I tend not to do it very much on my own. But that's right. Sometimes I watch TV shows and I'll look up like an actor or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. And sometimes I look up reviews and things like that. But I don't really look up how-to information or anything like that. And that's not how I use the AI either. It's really not about that, although it can sometimes come into it. So it's available to me. It's much more about reflecting back, sort of self-reflection, if you like.
Yeah,
which you can't do with Google.
And important to say also. I feel like I need to also say this.
Yes.
You can't do the inverse with ChatGPT. You can't ask for information because it will get it wrong. Things. Yeah, it will get it wrong. So it's totally different use cases. But I feel like you've carved out. Yeah, the comparison point that I wanted to make is that it's a set of things that you can do with the technology that you just couldn't do before, and that completely changes sort of your day-to-day interactions that you have. And so there's a big shift. But you seem to be using it in a different way than like most people that I've heard of. I mean, how would you summarize the things that
Okay, so
you
the way
that
the
you do
way
with it?
yeah, so the way that I think I've seen most people talk about it, and that one's oh, he hallucinates, oh, he gets things wrong. Like it's very so unimportant to me. Not it is a problem that it gets things wrong. So I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, I don't. It doesn't matter that it hallucinates for the way that I use it, and the reason being is that I'm not looking to find out what it knows. I'm looking to find out what I know, but didn't realize I knew. That basically sums up the difference. And I'm sure I'm not the only person, but it's like the vast majority of people are trying to get something out of it. I'm trying to get it to get something out of me.
Is that kind of like coaching? Would you say, is
Yeah,
that
I'd say
a
that's
fair comparison?
yeah, it's basically it's the ultimate coaching tool. It really is. I mean, because the thing is, hallucination doesn't really matter. I mean, it can make mistakes with the conversation, and it can forget what you talked about before, and blah blah blah. So there are issues, but it's if you're trying to find out what you think, what you want, what you know, if you're trying to get clearer on what you already know and what you can already do, but you're unaware of, you're looking for a third person perspective or third AI perspective,
Party.
not person. Yeah, third party perspective, exactly. Then the AI is, I don't know. I mean, it's not as good as a human because there's not it's not the human interaction. Of course, it's not as good as a human. But it's the always on, ultimately scalable, whenever you need it, at the drop of the hat, immediately on your phone. At nature of it makes it unbelievable. And there are so many different ways of using it which allow you to do that. I mean, one of the things I'm actually interested, and maybe we can finish it because we've been talking quite a long time, but I just wondered, the question I'd really, really like us to kind of mull over and kind of turn over in our minds is, what is the music AI version of what I'm talking about? I haven't even got my head around this, but because is it the case that most music AI people have been thinking of it like the way that most people are thinking about ChatGPT? And I'm saying is probably not the best. Well, it's not the only way. I don't want to say the best. The only way of looking at it, what it can do. And
yeah,
is there an inverse way which would be similar to the way I'm talking about ChatGPT in terms of music? Because that would be a really interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I really like the way that you put it. And I think I don't know yet, but I think that there are ways to use it that way. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that's a more promising way of using it than the sort of default way that people tend to think about these things, which is like, you tell me, you do it for me. I think flipping it and making it about like, get clarity on myself in some version of what that means is really exciting. And I think I've been sort of thinking along similar lines for my own work in music. And I still don't know exactly where it's going to go because this is sort of in the exploratory space in music still. But I think, yeah, there's a couple answers to your question. In terms of like what, maybe the concrete answer, like, I think it just means making these things super personalized, like bespoke things where what you get out of it is really tailored to what you put into it and in order for what you get out of music AI to be even useful, you have to get clear on, or you have to try to figure out what you even want from it. Like, where is it even useful? I have all these other tools in my studio already. What need do I have for AI? Like, yeah, there's some there's some areas where you might want to try to automate some aspect of your music process. But if you go too far in that sort of automation direction, then it doesn't feel like your music anymore. And I think that's what
Boring.
people tend to find. It's boring. You lose interest. So like, there's a limit to how far you can automate, I think. But if you're talking about artists and the artistic process, I think where I don't know the limits yet are in the direction that you're talking about, where it's about where you're using it to get more clear on what you are already expressing or thinking or playing on your instrument or something.
It's allowing you to do what you can already do, or enabling you to do what you can already do, or supporting you in doing what you want to do. It's both clarifying your vision, inspiring your vision, and working to enhance that vision in a sense.
Yeah, I think that's where the potential is. I don't think that as a sort of like field in technology that we're there yet with music. There's different reasons why maybe that hasn't progressed as fast as ChatGPT or something, or and it might turn out that there's there's a lot of other challenges we haven't found out yet. But I do think that this sort of coaching analogy is kind of interesting. I'm not sure what my favorite metaphor is. I think I need a lot of metaphors to talk about this stuff. Like mirror, using mirror is something that people have used before. Like you get another perspective looking at, you put in your own music to it, and it comes back to you through this other angle. You get more clarity on what it is that you put in the first place.
When I think about the use of the large language models, I would say sometimes it's a mirror, sometimes it's a microscope, and sometimes it's a telescope.
Yeah.
So it's reflecting who, I mean, possibly, I don't know, I haven't really thought this through, it's just off the top of my head. Possibly we could liken that similar to the present, the past, and the future. So the mirror is the present. It's like just reflecting back to you, or it can allow you to reflect back to yourself how you feel now or what you want now, and those things which aren't immediately obvious in any given moment. The microscope is like looking sort of deeper within oneself with the help of these tools to actually find and this was the insight that I got earlier on today about my motivation around the album, which is it's much more a microscope looking kind of deep within, and it's not doing anything weird because you're just talking to it and it's asking you questions. And so that's the microscope, thinking about your past and how you may have come to this point, which it may have held you back. And then the telescope is like looking at the possibilities in the future. So given what you found out from the mirror and the microscope, what there might be possible, how your vision can develop, how you can use the resources that you have at your disposal to move forward. And I think that's probably the three. There you go. You wanted metaphors. I've given you three. Well, two. You would.
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
So,
and often it's probably not until that last point where you get some direction moving forward that you sort of feel like it's completed the process where you've done something useful with it. And I think it takes both, like the technology being there in whatever form it is, and coming up with your own way of using it, of adapting it to your own purposes in order to do something useful, exciting. And so that's sort of like the stuff that I'm thinking about in music. And so, I think that we're not quite, we're still very early on, that there's starting to be more people thinking about and using these things, but the technology does have a lot of limitations too. So it's still, even if you're getting into it now where AI and ChatGPT is more mainstream, I still think that, the average musician isn't going to find still is going to need to put in quite a bit of effort to figure out a process that will be interesting for them.
I mean, I think we're a bit before version 1, way before version 1 in terms of what we're doing. So we're currently, I say we, Jon is training. Was it an RNN? Was it recursive neural net? Is that right? Recurrent neural
network.
So, neural net. So why don't you say what it is that we're doing in terms of what we're doing with the music? Because this isn't just going to be us talking about the philosophy.
Yeah.
And problems of AI. It's also an ongoing kind of document of what we're doing in this brave new world, or brave old, relatively old world for you, but for me, brave new world of AI.
Yeah. So we're trying to explore just this sort of open space of what might be useful for us within our creative processes. And since we're both making an album, we have a bunch of material that we've started, and so using this material is an interesting point of intervention to just see what happens. And I think the plan is to do a number of iterations on this at different experiments. Some of them might not be useful at all, or maybe just sort of a distraction, but we'll see what happens. The first one that we're trying is to use a recurrent neural network called Sample RNN, which is a model for generating audio, just short wave files. And the way that it works is by just predict, if you've got a digital audio file, a wave file, if you zoomed in really far on the file, you could see where the sound wave is at each point in time, and you do this thousands of times per second. And then that's what a sound wave looks like in a computer. And what this model is doing is literally predicting the next height of that next point on the sound wave at a really small scale. That's sort of one way of describing how it works. In practice, it's the way that I'm thinking about using it is just to create some weird, strange sounds that kind of sound like
what you put in
bits of my album so far, or that sound like what you put in. So I think the plan is to do a version with Mike's voice. So maybe we'll get some weird, wobbly sounding sounds that kind of sound like Mike's voice, or I've done it with my guitar and some drum samples and things like that. So yeah, right now the current experiment is just to use this sort of as a sound design tool. And it's kind of in the space of, it's just giving us random stuff, but it's slightly less random than, it's personalized random, I guess. It's random, but somehow connected to what you've given it.
Distinctive, so random and distinctive. Yeah.
That's the benefit. So it's not like buying a new sample pack for, that fits within a genre. It's going to be completely unique to what you give it. And it's going to have its own sort of wonky character. So it's not clear that it will be immediately useful for something if you've got one part of your song, let's say you've got a verse and you need to write a chorus. I think this is probably not the useful tool for that. But if you are looking for some kind of, the way I'm hoping to get something out of it is maybe during transitional sections, or if I've got a breakdown, maybe during the breakdown, you'll get this sort of ghostly version of what happened before, but it doesn't sound like the effects that I've heard in the past. I'm not just sort of cutting out some of the frequencies, or
no, it's a bit like a just think of it. What will come out is it's a bit like a sound mangler. So you put in a I don't know, some sound, you sample a sound, and then it comes out the other end kind of weirded up. Except the thing to remember in this case is that it's not sampling the sound. It's creating a new sound based upon latent
representation.
Latent representation. Yeah. Based on what it knows.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's actually creating this but what it sounds like. And we were playing around with it last week, and it's got, well, Jon was saying that this particular model has a kind of particular character to it. It sounds like something in itself. Kind of good. What did you say? It's like a kind of ghostly sort of.
That's sort of the vibe that I get from it sometimes.
And
it's got artifacts like any sort of processing has, but it's just different. Different artifacts, I guess.
And basically, we're going to take what it comes back with, and we're going to use those as samples in our music. So it's not that we're generating music; we're just using it to create weird sounds. Basically, to be just the simple way of putting it is, we're going to train this thing on our separate things, and we're going to use it to make weird sounds. That's where we're starting. But this is like the plan is to kind of use the results of this experiment, and obviously also the results of the ongoing conversations that we're having, to do more experiments and kind of move forward to see what we can do with it. Because obviously I'm as I've already said, the AI idiot here, and Jon is the AI expert, so he knows what he's doing on that side. But where I know what I'm doing is on the process side, the creative process side, from being a music coach for so many years, that it's like I know how the creative process works, kind of as a process, and I know where the pitfalls are, and I know how to kind of get out of them. And last week, Jon, that you said was being a researcher and an artist at the same time, that often you can end up sort of doing things like rabbit hole type things, which are interesting and in some sense useful, but which maybe don't exactly go anywhere. I mean, they do, but it's like, it's not like
it's always a challenge to try to, it's such a big open space, especially to figure out if I'm thinking about where to go in terms of like some technology that I want to build next, or even what is the next experiment to try in order to figure out how existing technologies might be used in a useful way.
Might I use a metaphor? Is it that you are more of an encoder, and that what you end up doing is creating more of the latent space thing, and you need a decoder to to create something else as that latent space? Might that be something similar?
I need to go think about that. I'll need to go think about that one. But I like it. I like that you went for it.
Yeah, why not? Hey, so yeah, but essentially, I think with anything, when you're doing something with someone else, it can often be a much more fruitful kind of collaboration, particularly when you're very different in sort of the ways that you approach things. And that's really the idea of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really exciting about having Mike doing this is that he has so much experience thinking about the creative process, and through his coaching work, talking with tons and tons of musicians and artists about their creative process. So he's very familiar with the not so latent, with the space of things that people might try, and where there's, where there might be opportunities or pitfalls for doing something new. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Fantastic. before we talk next time, let's think more on this idea of what would be the music version of the way that I've been using ChatGPT. Because I think that, I mean, we're going to keep doing the experiment that we're running right now, but it's almost like, what would that look like?